And Governor Bob Ferguson, when will you sign the income tax? He's got until Tuesday of next week to sign Senate Bill 6346. Maybe he'll veto a section or two of that. We do not know. There was no indication, though, that he won't sign it, not on the schedule for today and his bill signing. In fact, it was curious. Today's bill signing in Seattle, there was only one bill on the agenda for signage. So we've looked ahead to tomorrow. It's not scheduled at this point for Friday. So perhaps folks are right in suggesting that he's going to wait until the very last possible day to sign this bill into law. So there is, again, that growing consensus that the reason he's pushing it off until potentially the very last day he can sign is maybe to give less time for opponents to put together an initiative to repeal the income tax, or the tax on millionaires, as supporters call it. So two lawmakers weigh in on that idea in today's episode. Right. So diving in, we keep checking Governor Ferguson's schedule on the income tax bill, which, assuming he signs it, is going to create an income tax for Washingtonians who make more than $1 million. That also includes total dual income. So husband and wife together make combined income of more than $1 million. Anything above that $1 million threshold will be taxed each year at a rate of 9.9%. This takes effect January 1st of 2028, and the first payments for that would be due in April of 2029, when people have to pay their taxes. Opponents, of course, hope to repeal this before it even has a chance to be collected. So I spoke with Representative Travis Couture, Republican of Allen, about the delay of the governor in signing the bill and what he makes of that.
He'll probably push it out as long as he possibly can because that's less days that you have to get signatures on a ballot initiative. Number one, and number two, he probably wants to make a big show out of it, invite a bunch of supporters, and there's not many of them in Washington State, but he'll find the ones that he wants to invite and make a big show out of signing this thing. It's just devastating. I mean, I warned on the final passage of the bill, I told the speaker, we don't have to wait for the Capitol flight. It's already been happening. We got a chart out on, people could look at the Washington House Republican Caucus's social media page. We published a little chart that was showing the Capitol flight and the loss of revenue that our state has had since the enactment, basically, of the capital gains income tax. And then, what is still to be shown is how much capital flight we had because of an increase in the estate tax, which is a tax for people to die. And then now with this income tax, all I see every single day is another business, another individual, who has been successful in their life moving away. And I think it's imperative that people understand that when the wealthy, so to speak, or the millionaires move away, or the pass-through entities, the businesses, the small businesses who maybe make some money over $1 million and put it into their reserves, when they move to other states, that's jobs. That's local tax revenue for your counties and your cities, and for your police departments and your fire departments. And when those office locations or those brick and mortar locations vacate, those property tax levies get spread. And where do they get spread? They get spread to the middle class and the lower income people because there's no one left to pay it.
Representative Jim Walsh of Aberdeen, who chairs the state Republican Party, also speculates that Governor Ferguson is delaying his signature to squeeze that window for a potential initiative repeal. But he told me this week that he is really hoping the initiative effort, regardless of that squeezed, narrowed window, that it's going to come this year instead of next year. And here's why he thinks that's a good idea.
I think if you look back on the history of how initiatives like this fare, they do better in a higher turnout election years, which would be 2026 instead of 2027. Remember, the best are the big election years. So you get try to get on a gubernatorial or presidential election year, you get better turnout. But this is a midterm year, and so you got Congress races and you got ledge races, you get more turnout. We like that better than 2027 when historically in those odd numbered years you get even lower voter turnout. Now, some people will tell you, no, depending on the initiative, you want lower voter turnout. I don't buy that. I think we want, kind of touching back on our other issue, we want higher voter turnout because I think the more people vote, the better the result.
So I want to remind you there are already two initiatives that are on the November ballot this year, backed by Let's Go Washington, the measure to protect girls in sports and not allow trans athletes to compete against girls. And which is interesting given what the IOC said this week when they said no longer we're having, trans athletes compete against women. The International Olympic Committee weighing in on that this week was pretty significant. But the other bill is the parental rights restoration. Initially, that was passed by the legislature, and then they came back a year later with House Bill 1296 and basically undid every bit of those parental rights. So the other initiative is to restore that back to its original intent. So there are opponents, including the Washington Education Association and other left-leaning interest groups that are already mobilizing big time to push back on this. So this is to be considered as well. If there is, in fact, an income tax repeal initiative that ends up, qualifying for the ballot this year, do backers like Let's Go Washington and others have enough money to advertise for all three of those and explain those for the general public? Do opponents have the resources to mount sort of a three-pronged resistance to all of those initiatives? So that is something that everyone is talking about behind the scenes. There is lots of discussion on best strategies for that at this point. While we wait to see when the governor will sign this, assuming he does, again, Tuesday is his deadline to sign that legislation. So that's a wrap on today's episode of Washington in Focus Daily. Again, the income tax signing, waiting for Governor Ferguson to do that. At this point, his calendar for Friday bill signing does not include Senate Bill 6346. That is subject to change. So we're watching it a couple times every day to see what's going on. And we will keep you posted. Again, as always, thank you for watching.